Welcome to One Season Wonder, the podcast where we dive deep into TV shows that only got one shot. This season, we're watching Firefly episode by episode, breakdown by breakdown. I'm Talon.
I'm Jameson.
I'm Christopher.
Today's episode, War Stories. It's the One Season Wonder podcast with Christopher, Jameson, and Talon.
And I have different hair.
Oh, yeah. I'm different hair guy.
Our one viewer is going to be like, wow, this bitch.
The episode opens with Simon and Shepard in the infirmary. Simon's looking at brain scans, and Shepard asks if he's ever heard of Shan Yu. Simon replies he was a psychotic dictator. Shepard explains Shan Yu fancied himself a warrior poet and wrote volumes on war, torture, and human endurance. He says you can live with someone for 40 years and know their habits, but if you hold them over a volcano, that's when you really see who they are. Simon's like, tell me you're not a fan. And Shepard says, just wondering what kind of people did this to your sister. Also, quick note. So remember in the last episode when we talked about Shepard not being in the episode?
Yeah.
He went to the Abbey. Well, I looked it up because I was curious to know if there was a reason for this. Fan theories think that because he knew they were going to a major planet that had a lot of alliance on it, he didn't want to be seen, maybe because of whatever his past is.
That we don't know, yeah.
So he decided to be dropped off at some Abbey.
I really hope we get a little insight on that, because I'm upset if I just never know.
I would feel like they have to, because there's something that happens in this episode.
I was going to say, this episode, I feel like if he didn't have some type of past.
Yeah. All right. So in the next scene, we see Niska's back, the villain from the train job. He's torturing a guy who skimmed protection money. While doing this, Niska brings up Shan Yu, the same guy Shepard just mentioned, which is weird.
Yeah.
And they were using a bunch of big words, and Shepard.
What if Shepard has some connection with him?
Niska?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wondered that too, but I was like, God, that's real bad. That's some bad shit.
It is, but what if...
180.
Yeah. This is, I'm just saying, for them to both reference it, maybe it's a...
But then in that one...
Maybe.
But the one with Bushwhacked, when he got taken into the Alliance infirmary, when they looked at his ID, you're like, oh.
I feel like it was a respectable thing.
No, I think there was. He had to have something to do with, because they also referenced it. They're like, what would make them go?
Well, what's Niska's relationship with the Alliance?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just saying.
Speaking of that Joker, I deep dove on him because I was
Shepard or
curious.
Niska?
No, Niska. Because it was hard to find like his thing, like his role on it or whatever for some reason. So I had to dig for it. So I swore he was that dude from Shutter Island.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I
can see
could
that.
have sworn they were the same person, but they're not.
No.
Not a little bit. But he is in Sons of Anarchy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
These are when I pick out.
Everyone from Sons of Anarchy has been on this show.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, he was Lumpy he was the one with the smoker thing, and he talked funny.
I haven't seen Sons of Anarchy, so I don't know what you're talking about. We can discuss this.
Yeah, I remember.
Right.
He had a pretty neat little prison role. The whole episode, I swore I was like, "This is that Shutter Island."
God, how old was he on? Was he old as fuck?
I was gonna say he's kind of old in this.
So apparently, he's had 40 years of acting experience or whatever.
So what? He's 100 in Sons of Anarchy?
He's very old.
I just need to know how old this man is.
I should check to see if he's even alive.
He's 40, just never use sunscreen.
No, 40 years of acting.
I'm kidding.
No.
So he mentions the book again, the same book that Shepard had. Coincidence. Anyway, while he's torturing this guy, someone interrupts to say their radar picked up a ship that might be Serenity. Niska's thrilled. He tells them to send a team and bring them to him. Back on Serenity, Kaylee is chasing River around like they're playing tag. Turns out it's over an apple. Jane bought a crate, and Kaylee says River took hers. It's all playful and fun. Meanwhile, Inara and Mal are talking about her next client. The client wants to board Inara's shuttle, but through the Firefly. I guess that's kind of what she was trying to get to. I wasn't 100% certain.
Yeah.
But she wasn't taking her shuttle off the Firefly and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I felt like she didn't want her to come through the Firefly, but Mal was like, what's the issue?
Well, she was like, I just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Fuck
Yeah.
with her, like, play tag for apples and whatever. shit
Yeah.
or whatever.
Basically, I think she just didn't want anybody in that area so that they could privately go to her shuttle because she didn't want, a bunch of people gawking at them.
Yeah.
Right. Which
So-
happened anyway.
Right. So Mal tells her that anyone coming on his ship he needs to meet. And, really that's just him probably trying to piss on on his tree.
Dick
Yeah,
man.
right.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to see who this guy is. You got to
This is my boat.
Yeah. She's not thrilled about it. She wants privacy and again doesn't want anybody gawking at them. River and Kaylee run into the dining area. Kaylee snags the apple and says something like, "No power in the verse can stop me." Zoe and Wash they're eating apples as well. Everybody's eating apples. Wash is surprised Jane was so generous with this cut. Of course, we know why that
Yeah.
is
Right.
from the last episode,
Mhm.
Ariel. Kaylee points out Zoe always cuts her apples with a knife. Zoe tells a war story that during the war, they were all starving in this foxhole and someone threw them some apples. And before they could check, because Mal really wanted to check it, like he was like, wait. A couple of guys grabbed
went
them
to
and
eat
bit
them.
into them and they exploded. So now they no longer bite into apples. They cut them.
Which I don't really know how that would make much of a difference. Like if it was a bomb and you stabbed it, I feel like you'd still be close enough to where it's gonna blow
I
up.
was thinking the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
when they do it, they're like right here, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
she did say that it wasn't like a huge explosion, but it was enough so that when you bit into it right there in your face is gone.
Yeah.
I thought it was like there was nothing left but like chest and up.
Oh yeah, she did say that.
She made a reference because there was in her stomach.
She did say that.
Pretty sure.
She did say that,
Okay,
actually.
I thought maybe she meant that with apple. So
I
it didn't
figured
explode
too.
until they ate it?
I guess,
Apparently.
yeah, I think you're right. I
I
think it
understand
doesn't, yeah, because she said something about how they were just from the waist down after that or whatever.
So yeah, they were like nothing but because Wash was
Well,
like
they still-
going on about it, the chest cavity stories. And
Yeah.
shit or whatever.
Was it the waist down was still there or the waist up?
The waist up was still there, so I guess it blew out their ass and everything.
She did say that though, which I guess you missed. So yeah, I guess maybe, but how would you still know cutting into it before eating it? That it
feel
wasn't-
we're gonna have to watch that part again because I swear she was like it wasn't a big explosion, it just did this and that. This part was gone maybe, but I don't know. We'll have to watch
Maybe
it
it was
again.
a misunderstanding.
Either way,
Put it in the
if you
comments.
if you cut the
Yeah.
apple,
Yeah, it's not fixing anything. You're still gonna explode.
it's still gonna if biting it is gonna make you lose
Oh.
yourself from here up. I feel like you sitting right here with
Right.
it is gonna hurt you
Yeah.
still.
At some point, how do you make an exploding apple you can bite into?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're in the Western future,
I guess.
so
Yeah. The future of Western civilization.
Yeah.
Jane and Mal walk in. Mal mentions that they're about 20,000 miles from the next drop, which is a long way. Wash jokes they could have made more money on their efforts of selling, because they're still trying to sell up all the drugs. Wash made the comment that they could have made more money if they just cut the middleman. But he didn't really say the middleman, he just says we could have made more money. And Mal says cutting out the middleman isn't as simple as it sounds. Wash realizes that Mal knows about his idea, which he thought Mal didn't. So then he looks over at Zoe with a look, and she's like, uh-oh.
yeah.
Then back up on the bridge, Wash confronts Zoe. She told him she hadn't mentioned his idea to Mal at all, so that's why he was surprised that Mal knew. Obviously she had. Worse yet, she didn't really argue for him in his favor. Wash has heard that she lied to him altogether. And he asks her what she thought of his idea. First she says that the captain thought it was risky. He's like, no, I don't care what the captain thought. I want to know what you thought. And he's all frustrated. And she said, well, I tend to agree with him. He says, tend to agree or you have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her to stop hiding behind Mal and speak for herself. Then they're kind of in a little bit of a battle. And then he just drops what's this marriage needs is one less husband, meaning.
Me and James
Yeah.
both went.
We both went, oh.
Yeah, I was surprised that because even though he can be snarky in a fun way, though,
Yeah.
this was a little snarky in a different way,
Right.
which doesn't
douchebag
seem
a little bit.
Well, I think
like something he would do.
Yeah.
on the norm.
Well, I think Zoe is such a strong woman too
Well, to me.
that he tends to not stand up to her in that way.
Right.
So it was definitely
Ooh.
out of character for him to do, but you could tell he's probably been holding on to that for
oh
a while.
yeah, it's time it came out.
Yeah.
So side comment on that, I read on the IMDb that they always portrayed Zoe being taller than Wash, but in real life, they're not. Like, Wash is like 6 foot, she's 5'10". But the way they angled her for film, for like that kind of reasoning,
Yeah.
they made her taller.
Which is funny because I have noticed that, and it's funny too because Wash in that scene is like, I am a well-built man, you can tell me, whatever, you know, so.
Right. That's interesting.
Right. I didn't even write that in my notes. Remembered it.
You're growing.
Next week, I don't know. Like, what did they do?
The next scene, we see Simon checking in on River. She's not feeling all that great. He covers her with a blanket. She says she threw up. But she also
flew up. Like, that's all I could think. It was like a little kid that like comes in your room. It's like, I flew up.
She also talks about how sometimes things feel good, playing with Kaylee, walking on her own. Why did I write that like that?
I think she was talking about walking on the sun or something. She talks about so much
She
bullshit.
She started it off.
Whatever. And we believe they River said it.
I don't know why I wrote that way.
Because she started it weird. She was like, the sun comes up, and then she's like, she would talk about like how she can kind of feel normal, like a normal girl,
right.
And then
basically it's all like the sun's up, everything. It feels like
the
sun's out, everything's happy and fun and great. And I'm running around, I'm having a good time, and then all of a sudden it's like the sun goes down, everything sucks.
She just left out the point that she annoys the shit out of everybody.
And of course they're still weird in this scene.
Yeah. And
my beautiful sister.
Yeah.
My beautiful.
So she knows it won't last though, because it'll just get dark again. He hugs her, calls her his beautiful sister. She says, I threw up on your bed. And he goes, yep, you're definitely my sister. So then we have Kaylee and Jane and Shepard, and they're down in this little space, but they can see up in the cargo.
I feel like that's the kitchen area, like the dining room area. And like that door just comes up into the bay area where like that's where Jane and Kaylee were.
Yeah, you know, I think it is because remember that scene where River went crazy and was throwing shit and Mal happened to walk in? Mm-hmm. That was like a weird end of the kitchen area, and that I think
that's what that is.
That is that space. That makes sense.
You know what would help? Do y'all remember that movie Galaxy Quest? No, but you remember how they have like the layout of the spaceship? For like the
I don't remember it as well as you do, but go ahead.
Well, they do. Like all the super nerds are all about like the layout, and they have like a whole schematic of the ship.
You know what's concerning? That I think Christopher's brain, the way it's set up, like you know how there's the left side and the right side of the brain. One side is Galaxy Quest.
The whole side.
The whole side is Star Wars. And that's all that's in there. No wonder he can't fucking remember anything, but he remembers that whole fucking movie. Like, scene for scene, he knows the whole fucking thing. But he can't remember, like...
years.
Yeah, but you put it in last week's recording.
No!
We need to talk to him in terms of Star Wars and Galaxy Quest with everything.
Everything.
So he remembers it.
I do have a Star Wars reference later.
Oh, good. I've had that brought to you by Star Wars blog.
Please make a little...
I do. Have you watched the last couple episodes?
Yeah, that's why.
This is brought to you by Star Wars blog. Have you seen it? Yeah. So they're sitting there in this doorway, or standing in the doorway. Shepard's actually sitting down, but they're waiting for the entrance of Inara's client. And Shepard reminds them about privacy. Kaylee's all excited, guessing he'll be handsome. Then a tough-looking guy shows up and walks in through the big doors, and Mal's there waiting for him, and Inara's behind waiting. And Mal goes up to him and, he's trying to be all, Mal-like, and goes to shake his hand and says something, and the guy just totally ignores it, turns and walks and turns around, basically. And then turns out the guy's a bodyguard because he
like radios in.
In, like everything's all clear. So then the real client arrives, and it's a woman. Everyone's stunned. Kaylee says, I knew she took female clients, but they look so glamorous together. And then Jane's like, I'll be in my bunk.
Yeah.
And all I could think of was the IMDb. It's like sexual references. It's like mild for this episode. And I was like, that's the mild, right? I'll be in my bunk.
Okay, so then we go back up to the shuttle. Zoe tries to get the shuttle going. It's not working. She wonders if River's messing with it, which would be understandable. She and Mal comes in. He's like, what's going on? And she's like, I can't get this thing working. Wash walks in and confesses he disabled it. He wants to go instead of her. He's tired of her and Mal sharing all these bonding missions. Mal's confused. He's like, what the fuck is going on, basically? Like, but is also impatient about it. He's like, I don't have time for this. And
I feel that.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I get it.
And it's basically like, whatever you guys' problem is, we've got work to do.
Right.
So, but Zoe steps aside and lets Wash take the job. So then we go back to Anar and her client, and they're sharing an intimate moment, and she's basically just giving her a massage. The woman, she runs a moon or planet, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't sure what she does. She talks about how exhausting her role is. She's always in demand. Everybody needs or wants something from her. Nara relates. She says, I understand. Of course, most of my clients are men, and it's really hard to be myself with men where I can be more myself with another woman. So they kind of share that this agreed kind of thing. And she mentions that she only chooses women who have like special qualities and stuff like that. And then they kiss. Mild sexual situation.
Yeah.
Mild.
Right.
Very mild.
Which I will say, when was this show?
I looked that up.
It was
Because
probably
it is crazy, like, how much they portray the gay.
Portray the gay. That could be a t-shirt.
Yeah,
Take that out. Take that out. Take that out. I don't know.
Like, I portray the gay. That would be a great shirt.
I couldn't think fast enough to get the right way to say it. But it is. It's weird for that time. I feel like it's a weird time that they.
I
It was
looked it up
early
because
2000s.
Yeah, I looked it up because I thought.
But I still feel like that's
a lot
so
for that
early.
time,
Yeah.
because I think people we just weren't used to that. on
Especially
TV.
just on TV.
Some of that shit my mom
There-
turned off. She said, "Don't watch that."
So there were like 4 or 5 shows that had come out before this where they showed any sort of lesbian kissing.
Mhm.
I don't know that they showed men. I didn't look that part up. It just gave me references to women. Of course, Ellen, the TV show Ellen, had done it at one time.
Did they know Ellen was gay that whole time?
On the show? She had a show.
Just in general.
She had a TV show, not the
No,
talk
I know.
show.
I know. Oh wait, she had a different.
She had a regular, like Seinfeld, Friends. She had a
I didn't
regular
know
show.
that.
Yeah.
Really?
I've never heard of
It was-
it.
I only knew of her
It was
talk
a
show.
really
What's
funny
the
show.
show?
Ellen.
This
And
show
her talk show is called Ellen?
Well, the show.
This woman is full of herself. Okay.
Well, when that show first came out, I think it was called Me and My Friends or something like that. But then after it got popular, they just changed it to Ellen.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
Could you imagine?
It might have been the Ellen show.
Ellen, the movie. That's
Yeah.
the next one.
But anyway, but on Ellen, she played a straight woman for the longest time, and it was a comedy. And it was a really funny show, actually. I used to love that show. But she played a straight woman for almost the entire show, and then like about 1 or 2 seasons before it ended, she came out as a lesbian on the show, which also coincided with her coming out as a lesbian in real life because she hadn't come out before that.
Got it.
But anyway, so there were 3 or 4 other shows, but this was the first one that really showed more of a lingering, long-lasting, not just a kiss and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wondered that too as well.
Yeah.
I was like, gee, that seems like that's a lot for back in that time.
Yeah.
That's why Jane goes to his bunk.
Yeah. So then we go back to Mal and Wash, and they're on their way to the drop. Mal warns Wash that this isn't going to be a regular thing. He's like, whatever you got going on. He's like, when it's dangerous, Zoe's going with me because Zoe's trained for this. We've been doing this for a long time. And Wash tries to act tough, and he's like, wait, I've been in a firefight. And Mal looks at him and he's like, well, I've been in a fire. Okay, I've been fired from a fry cook job.
The thing is, too, is not only has Zoe dealt with any of that stuff, but they clearly know how each other work.
Right,
Mal always knows that Zoe's gonna be where she needs to be, and vice versa, whatever. Too. Whereas him and Wash don't have that dynamic.
No,
because that's not what they haven't done it. Yeah,
as long as they have, and there's a trust issue. Like when if you're in the military, there's a trust is huge.
Right.
You have to trust that person's going to be there. And when you've got 2 people who have definitely been together, like you're saying, for a long time, they definitely got the trust because they basically could probably do stuff with their eyes closed and know what each other's doing.
Yeah.
Whereas he's now got to figure out if, Wash can do anything.
Wash can do anything, yeah.
But it's also, he said this is more like a milk run than a major battle, so I'm not too worried about it. But it's not going to happen every time. They get to the drop, the buyers are there, there's 3 or 4 guys, And as they're, going through the stuff, one of the buyers compliments them for knocking off an Alliance hospital. That, is pretty ballsy. Mal spots while they're talking, Mal's looking at the guy and he spots a red laser dot on his forehead. He says something in Chinese like, holy shit.
Oh, fuck.
There's a red laser on your face. Or something. And then there's sniper fire, kills that guy instantly. Mal grabs Wash and tackles him to the ground to get him out of the fire. Gunfire is going on crazy. Camouflage soldiers emerge from undercover. They were in ghillie suits and behind rocks and stuff. And then they, take over the scene.
Which they were also like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
It's amazing that they didn't see none of that.
Right. But they ended up taking them as their prisoners.
Which is funny, just side comment. Well, I guess it's kind of spoiler. They talk about like the gun used later in the episode. Mm-hmm. It's like a long distance kind of thing. Right. But it was those dudes like
right there.
10 feet away.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, great aim, dude.
Right. Like the guy who had the red dot on his head, how did he not see the guy?
Right.
He was right behind.
It was fucking over there.
He pat him on the head.
So.
Okay, so back on Serenity, Shepard is bench pressing. Jane's supposed to be spotting him, but he's too distracted by Inara and her client kissing goodbye. Shepard is struggling under the weight, and while Jane is gawking.
Yeah.
And Inara, when the lady leaves, Inara turns and she sees that Jane's just glaring. He's got this big smile on his face. Inara rolls her eyes in disgust and heads upstairs. Finally, Jane puts the weight up and says, I'll be back in my bunk.
Yeah.
Again.
And that was funny, because it was funny, too, because he did it with one arm.
Yeah, he's just like
racked it right up.
Yeah.
I'll be in my bunk.
Yeah.
But he hadn't been doing a bunch of reps with it either, so.
Yeah.
In Shepard's defense. Did you happen to notice Shepard's pecs in this episode?
Dude, so I didn't
mentioned
notice
them before.
Shepard. I noticed Wash being a little more, like, cut. Like, his jawline, and he had his shirt open the whole time, and I was like, I thought he would be a little more just
puffy.
Not. Yes, puffy's a great word. That's exactly what I would have said.
Anyway, well, he was working out, he had a t-shirt on, and when he got up to talk to Zoe, his pecs, because he has really nice pecs for an older guy. So Jane gets ready to go to his bunk, but Zoe has to stop. But Zoe stops him. She arrives and says that Mal and Wash are late. She's concerned. She tells Jane to grab his gear. They're going to go check it out. Shepard insists on going too. Zoe hesitates, but he says 3 sets of eyes are better than 2. So she's like, okay, get your shit and let's go. So then they arrive at the site where the drop is supposed to happen, and they find the buyers dead. Shepard knows the weapon type, the sniper style right away.
Again,
he's saying all this
I feel
stuff.
like that has a lot to do with. Just think. Look.
I saw that light bulb just go on.
Right.
Just
right. He knew all of the weapons that were used, which are by men that work for what's his face.
Do you think those are the only ones that are in the galaxy, though?
No,
I don't think you're on the right path.
What
I think he's ex-military.
I think it's foreshadowing. Whatever. I'm smarter.
It could
We
be.
can disagree to agree.
We can disagree. Oh, how the
turntables have turned.
The turntables have toppled.
Yeah.
Of course, when he says all this, because he literally says the exact gun and all these little parameters and all this stuff.
Well, he knew they had a red dot on it, which I was like...
Lasers. Like, he knew everything. And Jane's, of course, suspicious, but jokingly... Jane's the one that keeps bringing it up. Like, how do you know all this shit?
Right.
So he's like, do you do a lot of shooting at the Abbey?
Oh, yeah.
And
she's like,
says,
rabbits. No, rabbits. It was rabbits.
Rabbits.
First
Why
stew.
would they be killing rabbits?
Or food.
First.
We're going to have to listen to this part again. He was killing
He
rabbits.
literally says rabbits because it was, I had to watch it with the closed captioning. And guess what? I have to fucking read it because I can't see anything else.
But hey, you know
it says rabbits.
Oh, he's killing rabbits with that kind of fucking gun. My God, how much rabbits left?
How much rat would be
Well,
left?
Rats can be big. Rats can be big.
That
bigger
big?
than rabbits?
Rats can be pretty fucking big.
I've never seen a rat bigger than a rabbit. Maybe a kangaroo. Is a kangaroo a rat? No. Don't play with me. It's a marsupial.
That's hard.
Wait, possum is closer to a kangaroo than a rat is. If you want to class,
Is it a marsupial?
it's a rodent.
I think there's another word for it.
No.
It's a rodent.
Are you thinking of a possum?
No, I'm
Is
thinking of a
possums-
kangaroo.
I know you're thinking of a kangaroo, but you're wrong.
They have the ears and the tail. I
Right.
think rats have a pouch.
Rats? No, they don't. A possum has a pouch.
Does a koala have a pouch too, or no?
Yes.
No.
No.
I
Maybe.
think rats have.
They have chlamydia.
What?
Koalas have a lot of chlamydia.
Koalas have-
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not
No,
really.
I think a rat.
It's awful.
I'm pretty sure, like mice and kangaroos.
Babe, I've literally owned rats as pets.
They're not.
They don't have pouches.
Rats, mice, squirrels, they're all rodents. Those are
Yeah.
all rodents.
A kangaroo is.
A kangaroo is not a rodent.
Have you ever seen it?
You know what a
Yes.
kangaroo is?
I think it's a big, stand on its back legs rat.
No, it's more like a deer.
They
You
have.
look at the
Have
face.
y'all seen kangaroos? Yeah.
Yeah, I have actually. I've seen that.
Has whiskers and the mouse.
Yeah,
snores.
it's not
So
a
you
real
think
kangaroo.
Just because
I just watched
it
the
has
movie.
whiskers, it's a rat? Because, you know, cats and
Cats have
dogs have whiskers,
No,
too.
'cause I think
You
it
have
has a
whiskers.
we can look
What
at
does
it
the
backwards.
pouch have to do with it?
It has something to do with being a
Marsupials.
marsupial, yeah.
But
Yes.
rats are absolutely do not have pouches, and they are not marsupials.
Well, a possum is a big rat.
We need to bet some money on this.
A
shit.
possum is kind of more like a big rat. Yes, I would agree.
Okay.
But a rat is not a kangaroo. I'm telling you that right now.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying.
You are definitely not right.
You're not.
This
So
is
you
2 to
probably
1.
shouldn't.
You think we're both wrong?
This is also the whole internet once they see it.
Yeah. This will be an outtake, but I'm definitely putting it out there.
I don't want to say I. No, I'll stick to it. I'm pretty sure
Money on
rats
this?
and kangaroos are close. They got to be at least in the same.
Do you
family.
still think a rat has a pouch?
Do you think they're both marsupials?
At the very least, cousins.
Have you ever seen a rat, even like a cartoon rat, portrayed with a pouch?
I've seen like real rats.
Have you
I
seen-
don't know about the pouch. I might be making that part up.
Yeah, you might.
I might be making that part up. But they look similar. Just
In what way?
So-
stand a rat
So
up
Star
on
Wars,
its
does
side.
Star Wars have rats in it? Hold on, let's go with this.
Galaxy.
Does Galaxy Quest have rats in them? Okay, so you know nothing about rats. You have no knowledge on rats.
Is there any of Star Wars or Galaxy Quest?
Fine.
You're done.
I'm wrong.
Kangaroos? No,
Not a
didn't
rat.
think so.
What is
We have a
this
lot
time
to. We have a lot to look up.
I was a shepherd.
Huh?
I was wondering like where we got on this.
Yeah,
Because he said he
rabbits.
shot rabbits.
Rabbits.
Yeah. No, but I thought he said rats, and it went from there. It went way off the track. So Jane asks, "Do a lot of shooting at the Abbey?" Shepard says, "Rabbits."
Rabbits.
Then they spot the blast marks. They spot the blast marks from the vertical lift. They realize it's definitely not a regular shuttle, and that this wouldn't come off any other spacecraft, and it can only come from a space station. And Zoe's like, "I know who took them."
And they didn't take the goods. They didn't want the goods.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Which, if they, I don't know if they went back, but my thought was, oh, they get the money and the goods.
Right.
Because those guys are dead. So Mal gets the money, and if they go back and get the goods,
Then they can
oh,
just
we
make
can
more
sell
money.
it again.
Yeah.
So I thought about that. Then I was like, they were willing to give up the goods for the money. Fuck it. But
Yeah. But that's a way to get rid of the middleman
fair enough.
that Wash wanted to do. So then we go back onto the space station where Mel and Wash are, and they put them into this room, and they have blindfolds on, so they don't know what's going on or where they're at. Yeah.
Sorry. I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I have a comment about the scene.
Yeah,
Okay.
you do.
So-
you couldn't even contain it.
I know.
watching it.
So
Yeah.
they're blindfolded, and of course, Wash is just yak, 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 yak. And Mal is walking around trying to get a footing to see like how big the room is. He's just feeling it out with like his feet, and he's walking it out. Plus, he happens to touch the thing that later on they end up being attached to. Wash is sort of panicky, but not like crazy panicky. He's just talking so much. And he's telling Mal, treat me like I'm Zoe. What do you guys usually do in these situations? I know you guys have had a lot of war stories and things. I've heard them all the time, and you guys know how to do these things. He's like, you just pretend I'm Zoe and you tell me what to do. And Mal's like, well, first you need to stop talking so much.
Right.
And he's
If
like,
it was Zoe, he wouldn't have to tell her what to do.
right. Exactly. And Wash is like, oh, yeah, she's really terse. I can be terse. But then, of course, he just keeps on talking and going and going. He kind of gives off that he's jealous of Zoe and Mal's bond. And finally, he's talking about how dangerous it is. And then when he says how dangerous, he's like, she's my wife. And Mal's like, what are you talking about? He's like, she's my wife. She would be in danger. And Mal's like, she's not even here. He's like, well, she would have been. And then they keep going on bickering. Then Niska shows up. Mal.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
So my thing in this scene, which if Zoe was there, probably would have happened. But why did they just take each other's blindfolds off?
Yeah, I guess that
they literally could have done that. One could have just gotten back behind and like taken it off.
Point.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about
but
it.
It's all I could think of as they were walking around blindfolded. I'm like, take each other's blindfolds
I'm
off.
surprised Mal didn't think of that.
Yeah, but I think if Zoe was there, it obviously would have been like, okay, it would have happened, right?
Well, yeah, because honestly, with what's his name constantly talking, Mal probably couldn't really.
He couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't even think about it. Yeah. He was just like so focused on trying to like make up for him and another person, right? Because he didn't have Zoe there.
Yeah.
So, but that's all I could think of the whole time. I'm like, take each other's blindfolds off.
That's a good point. You broke the rule of the episode, but it was.
Oh, you brought it up while you were watching.
Yeah, I was like, take each other's blindfolds.
Tisk.
Yeah. Sorry.
So Niska shows up, walks over to Mal, pulls out the blindfold. Mal says something again in Chinese, and Wash is like, "What?" Still,
what?
Because he's got his blindfold on, doesn't know what's going on. So then we go back to Serenity. Zoe's collecting all the cash that everybody's got, and the plan is to buy them back. Shepard warns that Niska might just take her too. Zoe says Niska may be warped and fucked up guy, but she can reason with him. Inara says that he's a mobster, based a gangster, not a mobster, a gangster, and that they've already returned all the money to him from the train job. So what difference does this make, basically? And Jane says that maybe he's still mad that they tossed one of his men through the engine.
Yeah.
So he tells the crew, if I'm not back in a reasonable...
I loved that part. That shit was so funny.
But anyway, so Zoe tells the crew, if I'm not back in a reasonable amount of time, take the Firefly and get out of this quadrant. So we go back to Mal and Wash, who are now tied up to that thing that's in the middle of the room. And they're being tortured on this rig. And that rig, there's a guy that will occasionally turn something and it shocks them. That's
in my notes. And it tickled me because it was like an electric thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's turning like a water valve.
Right.
It's like, just...
I was like, how does
that make sense at all?
Right.
But yeah, that made me laugh. And enough to write it down.
Yeah, and it's not like he's just like turning it on.
No, it's like
he's literally just turning and turning and turning it.
Letting the electricity go and then turning it back off.
Yeah.
I was like, that is very impractical.
But
they could have just had a button.
Right.
20.
But their future's so weird.
Yeah.
We've talked about how weird
is.
Their stuff is. Like sometimes it's really advanced and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny.
Anyway, so they're being tortured with electricity. But even while they're getting fried, they're arguing. Mal says shipboard romances are bad. Wash says Mal has intimacy issues. Mal jabs at him about Zoe, like really jabs. He starts getting to where he's saying, yeah, maybe I should, have sex with her.
Yeah.
All that. As they keep talking about it, the guy keeps hitting them with all these volts or whatever of electricity. And Mal is able to withstand it a little bit more. Wash is slowly, you can see he's declining a lot. So Mal is yelling at him, like, maybe I should have done it a long time ago. And,
But I guess, and he kind of says it like Wash says it later. But I figured it was like Mal's way of trying to like keep, like almost make him angry enough to keep him like going. Almost like extra adrenaline to help try to keep him alive. While
so at some point, Wash says, I wish she had slept with you because then maybe she'd be over you by now. Like you're the guy that got away and all that. And Mal's like, you want me to sleep with your wife? And Wash is like, well, maybe. And then the machine, of course, shocks them again. So Zoe arrives at the space station. She walks in. She goes down to where Niska is torturing the guys. Wash sees her, begs her to turn around and run. Zoe stays calm and cool, as she always is. Offers Niska a stack of money that's 5 times the amount of what he paid them for the train job. Niska's intrigued, but says it's not enough for both of them. So he goes on to basically, he's about to say you can pick one of them, but she immediately points at Wash and says, I want him. So at this point, when she does that, I knew immediately why she did that.
Yeah.
She knew
Mal
was going to be fine.
Yeah.
That she needed to get Wash out of there because Wash was like
he's not going to survive. Yeah.
To do it. They figure out how to get Mal.
Right.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I figured it was maybe the episode's way of showing the loyalty to her husband rather than Mal.
No. If they cut Wash's ear off, it would have been done.
Well, they hadn't done that yet.
I know. Sorry, but still,
Right.
if it had gone the other way, and she took Mal, and then Wash's ear got cut off, he would have been done. There's no way he would have survived.
Now, she. It goes back to what she was saying before, that they have worked together and been in these situations so much and so often that
she knew leaving him, it was going to be better.
Mentally and physically, but mostly mentally. All right, so Niska releases Wash. Zoe grabs him. Wash looks back at Mal, but Mal's shaking his head no, because Wash is like, wait, even with all the stuff they were yelling at each other about, Wash is still worried about Mal.
Yeah.
So as they leave, Niska says, oh, you gave me too much money. He said, I should refund you. And then has one of his henchmen goes over to Mal and slices part of his ear off. Puts in a nice little handkerchief, hands it over to Zoe. Zoe's very calm. She's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So she
Got
went.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought about it. I would have been like, ew. I don't want that.
So as they walk away, you can hear Mal screaming in the background. Back in the shuttle.
Also, sorry, at this moment, I also made a comment out loud accidentally, but I was like, we have a doctor on the ship. I'm sure he could just put it back on.
Right.
It was my first thought.
Well, that. And I was just like, oh, she's right.
Right.
They gotta have a doctor.
Yeah.
So they get to the shuttle. Wash is rambling about Mal, and he goes on. He's looking at her, and he's like, Mal is completely insane. He's so crazy, but he's so crazy that he was able to keep me grounded and awake and got me through all of it, even though he was being completely crazy, but he could handle it. He was able to deal with it. Then he says that basically that he's unbreakable. He's saying that he's worried because Niska's going to kill him. And Zoe's like, Niska's not going to stop torturing him. He wants to torture him. He's going to make it last several days.
Yeah, at least.
And then Wash is like, Niska isn't going to have days. They return to Serenity. Everyone runs up. Everyone runs up to them. Simon asks if Wash is okay. He says he is. Of course, he's probably not. Then Zoe hands Simon the wrapped cloth and tells him to put it on ice. He unwraps it, and everyone sees the ear. The girls gasp. They're like, oh. And then Zoe says, we're going back to get him. Back on the space station, Niska is gloating and talking about the book again. Mal says, are we starting a book club? What's going on? Niska introduces a new torture device that latches onto his chest, and then these claws come out. But then
it's
this
like
stuff kind of like this thing
like a spider
goes.
Thing.
Yeah, like
or it's like it's almost sucking the life out of him.
Or,
Yeah,
I don't know, it was something weird. But it goes into Mal, and Mal, of course, is screaming because it must be painful. Meanwhile,
must be.
That's what I figured.
Meanwhile, Serenity is gliding very quietly back towards the, I want to say PlayStation, space station. They've got all the power off, but because they're trying to avoid detection. And Wash says, hopefully, when we show up on their radar, it'll just look like some kind of a glitch or something. So they're doing this to avoid detection. Finally, they end up docking. When they get to where the door is open.
Oh, well, you skipped the part where they're like recruiting everybody, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Because they did. Because it was just gonna be. It was just gonna be Zoe and Wash going back, and of course Jane was standing at the doorway when Kaylee walked in and was like, "Yeah, they're just suicide mission, like 100%."
Right.
And then Kaylee kind of leaves, and then
Kaylee's like, "Can they do that?" Like,
no. But yeah, Kaylee leaves, and then you see Wash and Zoe. They're coming up out of the doorway, and then when they turn the corner, there's Shepard,
Simon, and Kaylee,
and they're gearing up with all the guns and everything. They're getting ready to go, and then all of a sudden you hear
and it's Jane.
It's Jane up above, and that's right.
So then they all like go on it together, which is cool.
Which was a great point because you're like, "Oh, it's Inara." And it was Jane.
I know. I was really hoping it was Inara up there but it was Jane.
Which we can cover this later, but where the fuck was she this whole time?
She typically isn't a part of stuff like that, though.
Yeah, she doesn't.
But her man's is in trouble.
Right, but what's
Yeah.
she gonna do?
Right.
I mean,
Shoot the.
yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. That's why I was kind of hoping it was going to be her.
Maybe she had to keep an eye on River, but she had to figure out that.
Right.
Thank
So
God.
there
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
that part. Where finally, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they end up. Then they dock, and once their door is open, of course, space station side, the guy notices that they've docked, and that's when he's like, "Oh shit, something's going on." He hits the alarm. The alarm goes off. They're in the bit about to like look. Maybe they're gonna take Mal's teeth out because they have like a wrench thing up near his face.
Right.
So I don't know what they were gonna do, but it stops that from happening.
Yeah.
And Niska's like, "We gotta find out what the fuck's going on."
Yeah.
Guys. They're like,
Dude, he's like, if you have guests, I can come back.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
now it's a G.
Yeah.
You missed one other thing I really liked. Because when Shepard and Doc and all them are like gearing up, it was fucking. If someone was like in killing someone against like Shepard.
Oh yeah, Zoe said that.
Yeah.
Zoe said
They
that.
don't say shit about shooting someone in the kneecaps or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Shepard's a G too.
Yeah. And there's something in the Bible about killing, and he's like, "Yeah, kneecaps."
Yeah. I like that.
That's true.
And
That's
then like
funny.
his first shot was like boom. And it was perfect because he shot him in the knee and he hit his head on the table and knocked him. And Shepard's just like.
So they dock, the doors open up, 3 guys come running out, and there's a bright light, so it's hard for them to see. And the next thing you know, the ATV rolls out, but there's nobody on it. It's got bombs connected to it. So it goes down and explodes. So you've got those guards down. Then Jane, Zoe, and Wash come out and storm the entrance. More guards are coming out. They're shooting at them. Then once they clear those guys, they call for backup. They want the other 3, Simon, Shepard, and Kaylee, to come out and man that part and hold the entrance, because if they don't hold the entrance, they're never getting back out. So, of course, Kaylee's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Looking terrified.
She disappointed me in this episode.
Yeah, I know.
I was not
But of course, they needed that set up for what was coming later.
Right.
It was surprising that she was so terrified.
Yeah.
I was disappointed.
Yeah. Then, so they hold the spot. Jane, Zoe, and Wash move forward. We get back to where Niska's with Mal and his henchman. Niska's at the radio, and he's radioing for updates. And his henchman comes behind him to listen in. And then all of a sudden, zap, it's Mal. He has zapped him with
the thing that he put in his chest. He put it on his back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So he obviously broke free and then electrocuted the guy.
And then punched Niska in the face.
Yeah, knocked out Niska. That was nice. So then we go back to the entry point again. Shepard and Simon are exchanging fire with the enemy. Kaylee is terrified, not even sure why she's standing there. Like, why does she even have a gun?
Yeah.
You just go pew pew, or with your fake finger,
She was
or with your real finger, but fake gun.
Damn, Kaylee.
So they're sitting there, and they're shooting all these guys and Shepard's doing a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Obviously he knows what he's doing. So then you hear Jane yell, "Get back here. We need some help, preacher." So Shepard and Simon take off and go down and
move forward a little bit. Yeah.
And leaving Kaylee there alone at the entrance. And she's like, "What the fuck?" So
Which is like complete opposite of what they just said.
Right.
Like, guard this. Hey, take everyone they can shoot out of here.
Right. Kaylee starts backing up towards going back into the fire.
Well, like 3 more guys start moving towards her.
And then next thing you know, you see these 3 guys. So she ducks into the entryway of the Serenity and hides a little bit behind the side of the doorway. And the 3 guys are advancing. She's panicking. She drops her gun on the floor and she's hiding. Then all of a sudden,
out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah. She appears. She goes over like she's just kind of going to console Kaylee or just going to hide there with her.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she sees the gun and she looks out. She sees the guys and she sees where they are. And then she's like, can't look. Picks up the gun, turns around backwards.
Yeah.
And eyes closed. Boom, boom, boom. Like knew exactly where to point to shoot these guys. And
then she says the whole thing.
Then she says, "No power in the verse can stop me."
Yeah.
Which the first time I watched it, I forgot that Kaylee had said that before.
No, I remembered.
So I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
River's like, I am a god.
I was like, holy shit, she got super ballsy out of nowhere. What the fuck is going on with River? So, but Kay...
pissed me off how useful she became for just a minute.
Yeah, because any other time, she is afraid of everything.
Right.
She's terrified.
But not really, though, because, like, yes, but, like, no. Because remember when fucking Gopher or whatever...
Gopher?
What the fuck is his name?
Like a kangaroo?
Yeah.
Badger. Is what you're thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And
Same thing.
Excuse me.
But Badger isn't...
There is a small corner of my brain for Firefly.
But when Badger was there...
Dangerous.
No, I know, but she totally, completely just stood up to him, like, out of nowhere.
Did. Yeah. And I will say, in the Ariel episode, even though she was terrified of the blue guys, once they were close,
she was like,
we're going this way. And
she's like, let's fucking go.
But if she can do all that shit,
right.
Like,
stupid. She's been holding.
But I think it also, I think it very much has to do with her connection with people. She clearly cares a lot about Kaylee.
Right.
So in that moment, she was like, I have to take care of this.
But I also made me wonder, are they trying to turn these people into machines, basically? Just fighting machines who can read where people are and what they're doing?
Like, that's what they were doing to River.
That's the insight. She's a weapon. That's why they're after her.
Yeah.
Because she's some savant of Matrix.
Yeah.
It fucking worked. That's what they're going after.
Because when that happened, I was like, they are making her and all the people that they're doing this to. There's got to be more. It's not just her.
Yeah.
Into some kind of weaponized.
But it's like they have to be a genius in order for them to do it, though. She was a genius, before. So it's like
that maybe
super smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be safe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not nice. Okay.
We're not talking about River's memory. We just talk about.
She probably knows the difference between a kangaroo and a rat, though. I'll tell you that.
Why are y'all going back to that? I'm telling you. There is something there.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll look it up.
Stay tuned.
Anyway. So now Kaylee's looking at her like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what is this monster all of a sudden, this machine that just... Boom.
Yeah.
So then we go back to the torture chamber. Mal is fighting Niska. That henchman, though, that he had knocked out wasn't dead. He ends up getting up, grabbing some sort of cords or rope or whatever.
It's probably like I think the cords that they had him hooked up to on like the electricity.
Puts around Mal's neck from behind, and he's choking him out. They are fighting. They fall through a window. They go out onto this ledge that hangs over.
It's like the center of their spacecraft thing.
I almost wondered if it had the outside atmosphere in there. Like, would that guy have fallen and just gone right out into the space that was open? I thought it was open. I thought that was a weird.
Because
I thought it was weird too.
Same thing in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Darth Maul was fighting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, and he fell down the shaft and bounced off. Exactly the same thing. Stole it.
Is this the Star Wars moment that you had? Okay.
Couldn't wait.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's so excited.
Yeah. So we actually haven't gotten to that part yet. Technically.
So thanks.
Sorry.
They're hanging over the edge. The guy's over top of Mal. And Jane and Zoe and Wash show up. And Jane aims to help Mal to shoot the guy. And Zoe, which I don't even know why. Like, why? But Zoe,
I guess typically that's how it would be.
She's like, this is something the captain needs to do for himself.
Like,
why?
No, I don't.
He's like, no. She's like, oh, okay.
And all three of them.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the guy, but the weird part was the guy was down on top of Mal. Suddenly he's standing up full.
I think he kicked him up.
Oh, maybe he didn't show that, but I was like, what's he doing just standing there all of a sudden? So yeah, they shoot him. He falls back and he goes down and he hits every single thing he could possibly hit on his way down. Just
like Darth Maul did when he split in half because Obi-Wan was pissed.
I hope that people who are watching this have seen Star Wars so that you have not ruined Star Wars.
If someone is watching this and hasn't watched Star Wars, shame on you.
So anyway, he falls down. We're assuming he's dead. During all this, though, Niska does slip away. So then we go back to Serenity. Simon and Shepard are putting away some gear. Inara's nearby. Mal walks in, feeling with his ear, asking Simon, you sure this is gonna
hold? Yeah.
And Simon's
He's basically like,
Well, don't fuck with it. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I used some whatever Durablend or whatever, but
Durablend.
Gorilla glue.
Yeah, it's like, but don't fiddle with it because
Yeah.
you're gonna fuck around with it. You're gonna mess it up. So then Mal looks at Inara and says, "I need to thank the councilwoman, who was the client for that day, for getting us this device." But what was the device?
I guess it was the stuff that they used to blow up. Use the bomb.
What?
The bomb.
I don't know. I didn't know what the device was.
Well, okay, so I was confused at this scene because back when they first back when like Zoe and Wash were getting ready to go back to the ship, Kaylee did at one point say that Inara tried to wave at whatever to get
councilwoman, but nothing.
Couldn't do anything. So I was confused because I guess she could do something, and there's something with.
It looked like a medical device, so I thought maybe it was used to help reattach Mal's ear. But again,
maybe because when Simon got handed the ear, he was like, "Yeah, with the right equipment, I can attach this back." So maybe it was something that he needed. But maybe that is what it is.
But I still don't know for sure. I was like, I don't know what the heck this is. So, and then of course, Inara says, "I just wish you'd killed that bastard." And Mal's like, "Well, yeah, that would have been nice."
Where the fuck was she?
She doesn't do. She has sex.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Not a fighter. She's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
Where were you helping? You were up in your shuttle, hearing all the pew 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 pew. Even River did something.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to even be there.
River does something.
Yeah. So then he goes over to the others, Simon and Shepard. He talks to them about. He's like, "Hey, I heard you guys were strapping up to save me." And asked Simon, "How do you feel about that, Doc?" And Simon says, "Well, I've never really shot anyone before."
That was hilarious.
And then Shepard comes up to us like, "Well, I was there, son. I'm sure you still haven't."
Yeah, that was very funny.
Yeah, that was.
I love Shepard. I think he's great.
I think he's great.
So then Mal turns around. He starts to laugh, but it's like painful. But then he goes over to walk up the steps. Kaylee's sitting there. He, pats her on the head or whatever as he's walking by. And she's looking up. And as she's looking up, she sees River go by up on the upper catwalk platform area. And they exchange a weird glance.
Yeah, which I don't understand why.
It's like River looks at her almost like, "Don't tell anyone what I did," kind of like in a weird way. And Kaylee is nervous and very unnerved, obviously, by what happens. Looks away and is like,
Well, because I thought about when she like cut Jane with the knife. Yeah. That one episode. Like, they're sketched out by her.
That's true.
She's weird.
So now she's got the knife thing, plus she can shoot.
And
Kaylee's the only one that knows it.
Shit,
right. But I think Kaylee's also probably embarrassed at the fact that she wasn't capable of really doing anything because she was so scared and nobody knows besides River.
Maybe, but I also think she had a look like there's some crazy shit going on right now. We need to sleep with one eye open, lock our doors, that kind of shit. Maybe Jane was right.
Yeah.
But they also need the doctor, and they can't get River to the doctor. They obviously need the doctor.
Doctor definitely helps.
Yeah. I am surprised, though, the doctor didn't get punched in this episode.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good episode for him.
Yeah, he should have got punched. So then we go to the final scene. Wash is in the kitchen. Zoe makes some food, and he's glowing about it because this is not something that Zoe would normally do, as we learned in the episode with our Mrs. Reynolds. Mal walks in, and he says, "So did you tell her?" And Wash says, "Tell her what?" And Mal looks at Zoe and says, "Your husband wants us to sleep together." Zoe's like, "Oh, really?" And Wash is like, "Come on, Mal, it was torture. We were going through torture." And Mal's like, "Well, he thinks it'll resolve the sexual tension," which I never got any sexual tension with those two at all.
Dude, that whole scene to me was like,
that's just Wash overthinking.
It was wrapping it up, but I was like, I didn't like how it went.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny too.
It was funnier how Jane ended it.
Right.
That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Well, he's your favorite. So.
Yeah.
So he grabs Zoe, takes her hand, put one on his hip and one on her shoulder. Then he puts one on her shoulder and one on her hip. And he's like, "This mission is going to be difficult, but we have to get it on." And Zoe plays along. She's like, "I understand, sir. We have no choice." Because, of course, she's still talking in that way. She talks to him all the time, which is funny. And then she says, something
about,
"Take me, sir. Take me hard."
Yeah.
as
And
Jane's
Jane's
walking
like,
in, and
whoa.
Jane's
Jane's like, I don't know what's going on here.
This fucking shit today.
Yeah.
He's like, I am not going to my bunk for this one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he says that's just downright unsettling. Then they lean in for what looks like
They're like
awkward.
gonna go in for like the weirdest kiss. Yeah.
And then Wash jumps up, grabs Zoe, says, "Yeah, we'll be in our bunk."
Right.
And then they walk off. He smacks her on the butt. She's like, "Ooh." And then Zane looks around, still baffled and disgusted.
Yeah.
Then he sees Zoe's soup on the table. He's like, "Hey, free soup."
Free soup.
Yeah, that was perfect.
So,
Perfect.
anybody got any other takeaways they'd like to add?
Other than kangaroos are probably closer to rats than you realize.
Okay. There's so much stuff. Do we remember all the things you have to look back on? What's the other thing we have to look back on? There's something.
The
in
rabbit
show.
scene.
Oh, the rabbit scene. But I believe you if you watched the credits or the captions, and it probably is rabbits, unless somebody.
I can admit next week if kangaroos are not
rats in the same species, or
they're close.
Okay, genius.
Again, cousins.
All right. Okay then. All right, that's it for War Stories. If you're still with us, thank you for hanging in through the chaos, the torture, and the soup,
and the rats,
and the rats.
Kangaroos.
Don't forget to follow One Season Wonder wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next time with Trash, an episode that reunites us with an old enemy and reminds us why you should never trust a naked man standing on a rock.
Is that next week?
I guess so.
Okay.
And as always, keep listening so we don't become a One Season Wonder ourselves. See ya.
Keep it weird.